Hey guys, Nick here. It's been a long time since I have uploaded a video. With the whole world kind of going through some stuff right now, got some free time, so I decided to go ahead and make a deck profile on one of my Vanguard decks. The deck in question today, if you didn't read the title, is my Bermuda Triangle Riviere deck. So it is a Force Clan. And so you got your gift markers here. You can use Force 1, Force 2, whatever you like. It just kind of depends on the situation, and we'll kind of go over a little bit. Unfortunately, our team league has been canceled. We all know why, so it's understandable. But this probably would have been the deck I would have used for the event. It's not exactly like it's not a bad deck. It's not the best deck. With the whole errata that we had for Riviere, made the deck. I guess you would say it's fair, but in a competitive format where you want to just win, if your objective is just simply winning, it did kind of hurt because it made the games pretty easy during my shop challenge. Before the errata, I believe I was able to do two shop challenges pre errata, and I did pretty well because the deck was really strong. Not a lot of decks was able to compete. So anyway, let's just go ahead for the grade 3s. I use 4 copies of the rare. She's just the Riviere support card. And I also use 4 copies of Riviere herself. Now, the card itself, before errata, after it attacks, you can discard 2 cards and then write a Riviere from your hand to the board, -1 drive. Now, with the errata, you can only do it. It's a hard once a turn. So think of it kind of like Dragonic Overlord the Great in a sense, but for Bermuda, because you're only getting 2 restands or 1 restand, because it's a hard once per turn. The first effect's really good. It has a when placed counterblast, discard, draw 2, so that's really good filtering. It kind of helps fix your hand if it's not that great. Before the errata, if you kind of open really good, you can pretty much have one of your Rivieres in hand, and you already have you ride 1 Riviere and you already have a few in your hand, and you can probably just win that turn. Just because the deck can really scalp out your hand, and you can pretty much have a good board setup. Now for the grade 2s, very simple. I mean, for disclosure, the deck's a pretty simple build. It's think of it as you can use it as a template if you want to build your own Riviere deck, and you can, add your own flavors to it. The way I built mine is very simple. It has a pretty simple game plan, and it's not hard to use, because if you go to a regional and you're doing like 8 rounds, and that's for your Swiss, then another 4 rounds of top cuts, you don't want to be you don't want to be drained, so to speak, like mentally exhausted, because if you use a clan like Oracle Think Tank, where you're stacking, or you're using a bit more combo deck, it's hard to say what decks. And standard is kind of hard to a lot of the standard decks, like, they kind of have their own linear gameplay. But what I'm trying to say is that you don't want to be mentally exhausted. So the deck I built, they tend to be on the simple side, because standard doesn't really demand a lot of strong plays anyway. So I use 4 copies of Lisa Lot. It's a very good card. It's probably going to see play for a long time still. It counts as a grade 1 in your hand, so you can call it to rear guard on your first turn. As long as you ride up to grade 1, you can call this as a grade 1. And then it has a hard once per turn when placed. Look at the top card of your deck. Either call it or put it into the soul. Back with Melody, it was insane, and it's still really good in Riviere. A lot of times you put the card in the soul, then you have soul to pay some of your other skills, or if you hit the grade 3 Riviere, like if you actually hit this, it's okay to call it, because if it gets killed, then you can use your grade 3 support card here to grab it back. Now, if you're against Narukami or anything that binds, you probably don't want to do that. You might not want to just put it in the soul, but you can do that. I play 4 copies of the grade 2 Riviere. It's an okay card. The hand effect, where if your vanguard's at grade 2, you can write this from hand to draw a card. And then if you happen to have 2 of the grade 1s in the soul, you can call them out. That part is probably the only good part of the effect. The restanding is okay. It's very good when you have a bunch of force markers stacked on the rear guard side. But you tend to probably put it on the vanguard, so it's not really like the effect that'll win. Unless you hit like an early crit, that's really good. But the first effect's good, just because, let's say, you don't have the grade 3 in hand, gives you a chance to draw another card. And the last grade 2 in my deck is the grade 2 Caro. Now, this card is definitely the MVP. You Soul Blast. First, it has to be placed from hand, and then you pay the cost, which is Soul Blast, to search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name as your grade 3 Vanguard. So obviously, you search for Top Idol Riviere with Caro. Then you're already good to go. With the errata, it's actually really good because you can only do it once anyway, while before the errata, you have to find other ways to get multiple copies of Riviere in your hand, because you want to just probably punch face a few times with Riviere, which is not a problem at all. It's not. I'm not saying it's a problem, but it makes me feel less wasteful, less feel bad because of the errata. So, Caro's really good. Now for the soul, you can get use a lot's effect, and then if you happen to soul charge, like let's say a Riviere, and then you can call Caro. Actually, I'll do a little combo right here. That I do a lot. It's really good. So let's say you have some Rivieres in the soul. This is on your vanguard. You can, or go like that. You call these a lot. You happen to see at least a Riviere. You can soul charge it. Then you can call a Caro, Soul Blast the 2, search for Riviere, and then you can discard this, draw a card, and then grab a Riviere. So now you have 2 Rivieres in hand. I used to do that a lot when the errata was not in effect. It's pretty much you just slam face 3 times, and then now you can do it again because you just grab them out of your deck and discard pile. That's what made the deck really good. But can't really do that anymore. I mean, you can still do that play, but it's not as lethal. Grade 1's very simple. 4 copies of Riviere, grade 1. Ideally, you want to ride that right away. Not ride it right away, but ideally you want to keep it in your hand. Ride up any of the other grade 1 cards in the deck. So, for example, you can ride. I play 2 copies of the Steza. It doesn't really matter. This could be anything. Just write something and then use the Riviere's skill from hand to ride up, and then do the Soul Blast and get that extra draw. If done right, which is not that hard because it's top 7 anyway, but you look at the top 7, grab a Riviere, put it in your hand, and then if you Soul Blast your starter for the cost, you draw another card. So it's very strong. You'll definitely get ahead. And now, especially with the new, what are they called? Those order cards. If you go second, then this deck, you can get a lot of cards very easily, very quickly, because if you go second, as you know, your starter gets you the ticket card, the 5K shield ticket. Although I don't know if it's any good or not. Unfortunately, we never really got the chance to try it out because game shops close. But anywho, this card's really good, and then also it's a 10K booster. So don't know how relevant that really is. I don't think it really matters too much, but you have that. I also play 3 copies of the rare Riviere support card. It's just a counter charge draw. You do use a lot of counter blasts with Riviere. Not you might do a counter blast with her effect, but Riviere is going to be the one that will take your counter blast for sure. So he's just good. Gets you draws and fixes your hands and whatnot. And then probably one of the best grade ones in the deck is Aurora. She pretty much helps you fix your hand. So ideally, you ride this, draw a card, discard, and your starter draws you a card, and then you just ride up your grade 1 Riviere with her effect. That's the dream play. Trigger lineup, you can change this around. Oh, and starter's this. Grade 0 Riviere, you just have to. And besides, Riviere's cool, so it doesn't matter. If you use any other starters, though, then the deck's not going to work right, so the Riviere name is important. Anyway, the trigger lineup for heals, I play 6 draws. 4 of the perfect guard draws, and then 2 of the regular draws. Pretty much, you want to be drawing a bunch of cards, so you can just go punch face and win. Triggers, the critical triggers, 6 as well. The some people say 8, some people say 6 draws. Maybe some people up the draws. It's really up to you. I play more of the safer build. As you can see, like I said, the game plan is very simple. You just go up to Riviere, punch face, and just win like that. Critical triggers will help you get there, but if you don't have the hand to win, then there's no real point in crits anyway, so the draws help you get there. Now, going for the gift markers, typically I go into Force 1 more often than not. If you go in the mirror and they chose Force 2 and you choose Force 1, you're going to have a good time because they're going to realize their numbers aren't really hitting as hard while yours is. Because to remind you guys, Riviere is a restanding vanguard pretty much. I mean, whatever triggers you get goes away if you put it on the vanguard, but every time you ride up, you'll get a force marker, and then if you stack the rear guard side, then you can pass all the triggers to that unit. That's really good. Since we don't have a Denial Griffin in the game, then we don't have to really worry about rear guard hate. So anyway, that is my deck. Very simple. Just wanted to share what my standard Bermuda deck is, and if you have any suggestions and ways to improve it, or you think Riviere is not that good anymore, I shouldn't play it, you can tell me that too. That's fine. Right now I'm in a spot where Bermuda's the only clan I really play. The new Gear Chronicle cards look really interesting. I mean, I do like that new next stage. But it's almost like the same thing, though. It's just another restanding, because you attack with next stage and then you go to Chronojet. So I feel like the value's kind of the same if you just go Riviere. So we'll end our video there. Thank you so much for watching, and If you guys like the video, definitely hit that thumbs up. I just got to throw it in there because apparently it helps your video appear more often. And we'll go from there. Take care, guys.